Hey there, Foster Fierce family. Welcome to Interview with a Foster Kid, where we dive into the raw and unapologetic stories of Foster Fierce alumni, driven by a passion for creating a better future for our foster siblings around the world. I'm your host, Amira Therese, and I want to hear your story too. If you're ready to share, reach out to me at iwafosterkid@gmail.com, and don't hold back. We tell stories on this show so honest, they'll make your caseworkers blush. Now it's time for our next Foster Fierce episode. Listen mindfully and please enjoy. Hey there, Foster Fierce Nation. Welcome back to the show, and a very special welcome as we kick off Pride Month, a time to honor the diversity and resilience and the voices of the LGBTQ plus community. It's a moment for reflection in all of us, really, celebration and meaningful connections and conversations. And I cannot think of a more powerful guest than Matthew Page. He's a speaker, a consultant, and a transformational coach whose work focuses on identity, mental health, and intersectionality. He also is a trustee for the Fostering Network, which is the UK's largest fostering charity. He grew up in the UK foster care system, and he now is an advocate for children in care and serves as a foster carer. His lived experience alongside a really deep personal journey gives him a vital voice in this conversation. He also appeared on BBC's DNA Family Secrets, and I really want to get into that part of it. It's extraordinary. I'll have every link to everything we discussed today in the show. But Matthew, why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, what an introduction. You can take a deep breath now. Wowzers. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
I'm Matthew Page. As you said earlier, I'm an intersectionality and identity consultant, a trustee at the Fostering Network, and a transformative coach. I was brought up in the care system in 1975, age 3, with my half-brother. And we stayed in the care system, or I stayed in the care system until I was 18 with the Page family, who were a lovely family in the Kent countryside. I think we call it the Garden of England, Kent.
Nice. Sounds like a beautiful place anyway.
It's got its places, you know.
Yeah.
It's good places, like anywhere, you know.
Yeah, sure. So you said something kind of caught me right there. You said you stayed in the foster care system. I also went into foster care with a sibling.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's 14 months younger than me, but we didn't stay in the foster care system together. And I know that had a real effect on me because I felt like, well, there goes the last bit of my DNA, my familial ties. Can you take me a little bit through that? Just kind of what happened? When were you guys separated?
So we were separated when we were put into care. My brother Leroy, I should say, is just under a year younger than me. We were unfortunately separated when we went into emergency care, and my foster mother and father come out to see me in a temporary situation with a temporary foster family. They agreed to foster me, and then they were told that I've got a baby brother, and they only wanted one kid. So they were like, oh, we're going to see the baby anyway, you know. And of course, they went to see my brother and fell in love with him. And they took 2 of us. So we were lucky in a way. We got reunited.
Wow, that is beautiful.
And we kind of grew up together with the Page family.
Well, heroes. They're really heroes. I mean, staying together. I just wrote an article. I haven't put it out yet. But I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a movie or a series that came out in 2013 called The Fosters. I like to say I don't know how I missed it, but I know how I missed it. I was heavily avoiding those type of things back then and just found empowerment in my foster part of the story now or recently. So I can watch these things. It is beautiful. I absolutely recommend watching it, but it talks about the dynamics of being separated from siblings while we're in the system and being reunited. So it might be an interesting little bit for you to watch. But I know that your foster care story, I mean, there was a lot going on in your life just as far as who am I? Not,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of us go through I don't relate to these people, but it sounds like your foster parents or your parents were pretty relatable. But there's still that question: who am I? Where am I from? Can we go into a little bit of how it was growing up? Because I only know from my side on the States. How was it growing up in the UK outside of your own family unit? And how did you find your identity before we get into your exploration into the BBC family secrets?
Well, that's a big question. I didn't really have much of an identity. I had to forge out my own kind of identity. Uh, Luckily, we had a really good family that took us in, loved us, and gave us boundaries and love and support. And we had holidays and all those kind of things that traditional families had back in those days. So we were quite lucky, or we were very lucky in that respect. But obviously, I'm talking about myself, obviously I had a lot of trauma regarding, attachment issues, abandonment issues, insecurity based on those things, lots of impounded trauma that I didn't have a clue I was carrying until I was much, much, much older. And I've gone through therapy, counseling, reading, just so much kind of
introspection.
Work. Yeah, it's ongoing. I've still got some of those things, I think some of those things will always be with me, but I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin because I know they're there and I know what they are and I know where they came from. So I can say to them sometimes, go away, shut up.
Yeah.
It's everything's fine,
Yeah.
It's all about the nervous system, I think, as well, isn't it? With us foster kids, we've got, I think when we start out in foster care with all that trauma, like I said, a lot of us have dysregulated nervous systems, and no one talks to that about us. No one says, look, your nervous system is this. What we need to do is get it to that, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what you need to do to calm your nervous system, because that when your nervous system's calm, when you're calm, we're centered, aren't we? That's when the magic comes. We're superheroes. But I've spent a lot of time over the years working on that, on my nervous system and mental health.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I mean, and it is always work for the audience too. It's just constant work. I'm just at a place right now where I can accept that therapy isn't another foster care trap, because I mean, for me, therapy was always entrapment. They were like, this stays between us, this is between you and I, and it doesn't stay between us. So when
it's your story, isn't it? It's our story. It's not up to anyone else to say what you can say and what you can't say about your own.
Yeah. And well, and in most cases, they would, the therapists were liars. They would tell the caseworkers, social workers, judges, my parents, everything I said. So I was creating enemies in my truth by telling the truth to my therapist. So I had to learn later on in life a new way to trust them. And I'm still actually learning. So just for the audience, it's a constant process. When I was able to learn new techniques to calm my nerves wasn't until after foster care. So I was a nervous child. I had that hypervigilance but it kept me alive in a lot of crisis situations.
Well, we develop that, isn't it? It's like stuck in that fight mode, isn't it? Because we're always ready for danger. We're always ready for someone to come and knock on the door and say, right, come on, we're going somewhere else now. And the whole world changes. Everything changes again. And I don't think, unless you've been through that, you can comprehend what that's like for a child, let alone an adult.
Speaking of from child to adult transitions and that, I had a great guest on my show. His name is Samuel Dorval. He's a foster carer here in the States. And he was telling me that there was a moment in his life. He came from trauma, he just went through a lot. He's an immigrant from Haiti in a very, I'm just going to say, intolerant country. People, I live here, question me on it, okay? Because it is. But anyway, we'll go into that in a different episode, maybe a different show. But he was telling me that there was this one moment recently in his life as an adult, and he was laying beside his wife, and all he could hear in that moment was quiet. And he told her, he said, this is the safest I have ever felt right now. I've never felt this. Is there a moment in your life when that happened for you?
Yeah. It was when I discovered who my family are on the black side of my family. Wow. It was when I felt that connection, and I had that sense of belonging. Even though I had a sense of belonging with my foster family, it's a different
Sure.
thing. It was at that moment that I felt a sense of belonging.
I love that. You know what? I just kind of want to go into that because I know I said we're going to skip to the BBC stuff. We'll do that at the end, but I think it plays really well into the struggles searching for identity. I don't think people understand that. Maybe a distracted kid in foster care is searching. Maybe a distracted kid in foster care is distracted because nothing around them reflects anything about them. So I do kind of want to go into that part of the dynamic a bit. You were on BBC Family Secrets, and what a show. First of all, to my audience, you have to, the link is going to be in the description. I went through so many emotions, ups, downs, overwhelm, anxiety. I was like, oh my God, what are they going to find? Please find something. I mean, just waiting for the answers, telling this story, how vulnerable. Tell us a little bit more.
So I was sitting at home in lockdown, the last lockdown, and I saw an advert for the show. Does anyone want to test their DNA? Have they got any questions? So I sent the BBC a little story about myself, growing up in foster care, not knowing who my dad was. Wanted to know that if he was Jamaican. The only information I was given about him was that he was his name was Derek, and it was from Jamaica, and that he drove a van for British Gas. And that's all I was told. So I wanted some confirmation on that because, you know. So skip forward. They agreed to get me on the show. They sent me a kit to do my spit test for the DNA. And then my partner, Raphael, and I went down to Leicester to meet Professor Turi King, who gave me the results, which were that my father wasn't from Jamaica. He was actually from the Seychelles, as you know. And it wasn't who I was told it was, my father. So that was kind of where that program ends, really, for me, was the start of my journey, because what viewers didn't see was when the program finished, a lady was watching the program and she saw me and my half brother Carl, who popped up on the program at the end. She said that those boys are my brother's children, and she contacted me, did her DNA test. 3 months later, it came back that she was my auntie and her brother was my dad.
Wow.
So that was the start of it. They were so accepting to both me and Carl from the offset, that I felt that sense of belonging immediately.
Yeah.
And that sense of connection. I don't know, it filled parts of me that I didn't know needed filling.
Right.
That's the only way I can describe it, really.
No, I understand that completely. It was those rare moments when I got to join my mother when I was in foster care, and I would get to visit her at a family reunion. And I felt that sensation. Like, even people that I didn't get along with, it was a familial bond that I craved.
Yeah.
And so I resonate with your story because they weren't a mystery to me, but I did, when you felt that connection, when she told you that breath you took, I have felt it. I have taken that breath. So I resonate with that part of your story in a different way. It is so unique, the details that we each have. But it seems like the destination, we end up kind of in the same area.
Yeah.
Of awareness, you know.
I always say with anyone with lived care experience, you know, we're all individuals, of course we are, but we've got a common thread that runs through all of us, and that's yet to be one that I've defined. But I think some of that is we all want a sense of connection, we all want a sense of belonging, and I think that runs through to adult life as well for many of us. That's fine. I think there's a lot of stigma around kids in care, even adults who've been in care. There's stigma. There's still stigma. And I think people can look at us sometimes as vulnerable and needy, maybe. I was sat with a psychotherapist years ago talking about the subjects of needy. And I said to him, look, I feel really needy sometimes. And he said, well, what is needy? And I said, well, it's needs, isn't it? And they said, well, everybody's got needs. We've all got needs.
Right.
It's human nature.
Yeah, I feel like growing up the way that we did, not having our needs met
Yeah,
through
yeah,
like the biological
that's
sense,
right. Yeah,
like the
yeah.
way I treat my kids or my nephews or
Mm.
nieces. It's do you like I get up and I'm like, Anybody thirsty? Can I get you
Oh,
anything? Can I
I bet
take?
they're more than covered, aren't they, with you?
Oh, yeah.
All over it, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We meet our kids' needs on a
yeah.
natural sense. We meet children's needs, even children that are in our home visiting who aren't our children. And I saw this growing up, like I always call them the bio kids, but the bio kids would have friends
Nice.
over, and it seemed like my foster parents were on it. They were meeting the needs of those children. And I feel like that was something that I didn't experience a lot of my needs met. So we do kind of have this guilt, or I don't know if it's even imposter syndrome. When we feel needs, we feel needy instead of
Mm.
somebody who had a balanced life growing up saying, I have a need. Please hear me
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, well, we were vulnerable children,
Yeah,
as you say,
absolutely.
without our needs being met. And when a child isn't parented in the way that it needs, it's going to cause all kinds of issues, isn't it?
I'm here to say that yes, it does.
Yeah,
Just
we
my
all are.
personal experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think it's
absolutely.
okay to talk about that because, again, within the system over here, we don't talk about the word trauma very often. We don't
Yeah,
talk about the word love very often. I just think that the word needy has got so many connotations wrapped around it, such a negative. And vulnerable children have more needs than children that are not vulnerable, you know.
absolutely. And I
And
mean, we're less accepted on a lot of levels because we don't come in as children, do we? We come in as labels, as threats, as fears. There's fear surrounding us. Like, what if they steal my pills? Their mother was a drug addict. What if they hurt my animal, because they're angry at me? What if they hurt my own child? So we have to
yeah.
overcome those things too.
Also, the many kids in care present in a much older um, way than kids of
Absolutely.
their own age because they've had to build this resilience and put this mask on.
Yeah,
So they get treated like they're the adults, and they're not. So they're not. So again, they get that parenting gets missed
yeah,
because parents assume that they're much more mature than they actually are.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know that that was a stigma that I dealt with, and having adult discussions with me too.
Yeah.
Then realizing they're talking to an 8-year-old and then saying, "Shit, why are you so young? Oops,
Yeah.
don't tell
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
aunt I just told you that."
Or they forget that that they forget your age, don't they?
Yeah,
They forget
absolutely.
your age.
I want to get back into identity just because
Mm.
all of us have. I loved the word. So I've learned from you intersectionality, and I might be delayed on that, but I'm so happy it's hitting me now because it explains so many things. It really allows us to live in acceptance of ourselves. Like, I am not
Mm.
this one person. I don't have to identify with this one part of myself. So
Yeah.
I'd love to I know that that comes from a place, though, in your life. Your parents that adopted you, your parents, they were accepting and wonderful, extraordinary, though, and very unique in their
Mm.
acceptance. If you don't mind, could we get a little bit into how it was discovering your identity, your LGBTQ identity in foster
Sure.
care?
Sure. So, um, for those that don't know, us foster kids, we are most of us when we're in the system. The biggest fear is of being othered, of being recognised, of being in the system, of feeling like we don't belong. So
Yes,
the biggest fear for me was one of rejection.
sure.
Obviously, I'd felt rejection from my birth mother before, and the fear of after I've been settled with a new family of rejection was you can't comprehend that fear. It's terror. It's terror. So when I realised I was gay, it took a long while for me to start to accept that. And I didn't think in a million years I could tell my family and my foster parents about that through fear of being rejected.
Sure.
That was terrifying. And it wasn't until I'd left home at 18, moved to London, to the heart of London, which is another story altogether, that I felt really alone in the world for the first time, really alone. And I felt, I don't know, really uncared for.
Sure.
And I thought, you know what, I need to go back to my parents and tell them, because they don't really know me, because I'm not being honest with them. They need to see me properly and to know me. So I went back to Kent, and it was terrifying. And I spoke to my foster mom. She said she knew I was upset because I was crying at this point. She said, "Oh, come upstairs, come and sit on my bed, and you can tell me anything. Come on." Because I used to do that when I used to live at home. I used to go in there when she, after a night out or being at the pub, we'd go there and she'd be sat on her bed reading her book, and I'd sit on the bottom of her bed and talk to her about the day and my problems. Or so she said, "Come on, we do that." So I went upstairs, sat on her bed, and I said to them, "I can never ever tell you what's on my mind." And she said to me, "Look, you're my son. I love you. If you've murdered somebody, you need to. It doesn't matter. You need to tell me what it is." So I said, "I'm gay." And she went, "Oh, thank God for that." She did. She said,
The other scenarios were just too bad.
She said, I thought you was going to tell me something horrible. And she said, "Do you think I've lived my life and I haven't got gay friends? I don't know gay people."
Yeah.
So, oh, okay.
What a relief.
So that was the coming out story, really.
Yeah. I mean, but what a relief, because I mean, and I just don't want to take away from the years you didn't have that relief, from the years that it was inside of yourself and unable to be expressed, and add that to the fact that we have to lie that we're in foster care, because that's an embarrassing story, or somebody might ask questions. And I don't want to tell you about my father. I don't even tell my therapist. So I'm not trying to open that door of interrogation. I mean, I'm so grateful that you had that, because what a burden to add to all of the other burdens to have to harbor that.
It was amazing, yeah, and I'll never forget that. And I think that conversation, what I've just said to you, I think that was nearly word for word, because it's kind of ingrained in me. So if anyone's out there with gay children or LGBTQ children, or that, you've got to be really. It's really important to be supportive, even if you don't understand it. You need to go out there and get the information. It's all out there.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Whatever. But it's there, and it's really important. The way you handle it will live with them for the rest of their lives. So it's a huge responsibility for a parent.
Yeah.
But isn't parenting a huge responsibility anyway? But
sure. Yeah.
Those ones, around LGBTQ, it's in foster care, it's huge. It's huge.
And I want to say to our audience, Matthew is starting a YouTube channel called I Am Matthew. We need to bring people over to it. And these things that he talks about, his mentorship and advocacy in his life, will all be there. So when eventually. He says, eventually, it's brand new, but the content just based on everything that I've, seen following you so far, Matthew, I highly recommend for our siblings, our alumni, to go over there and to check it out.
It will build slowly. And also, if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, it's at I Am Matthew's Story.
Absolutely. And any links he brings up today, I'll put them right there in the description of this video. I'll make sure you guys have all the information you need to follow Matthew on all of his platforms. But your story, to me, the most extraordinary part is what you're doing with it. So a lot of foster siblings out there and alumni there, we hate the word resilience, because it almost puts us into this bracket of, or overcome. And I like to say, you're not overcoming anything. You're doing exactly what you were going to do. You are doing exactly what you were always meant to do. You just didn't let anything get in your way. And the extraordinary part is finding purpose through all of these things that create meaning in our life. And when I started looking at my foster care journey and my issues with my mother, things like, all of the issues as chapters in a really meaningful book that I'm writing, I was able to find empowerment through that and become an advocate instead of a triggered fanatical person. What kind of helped you do that? What pushed you into action to say, I'm going to be an advocate, a mentor?
I knew that I was suffering. I knew that in some shape or form I've been suffering, growing up in the system, leaving care, and I was desperate for answers. I was desperate for peace, and I knew that every time I found an answer to the way I was behaving or thinking or feeling, every time I found, some kind of answer to that through therapy or reading or whatever, that I got a sense of healing. And so it's kind of a desperate search to fix, even though I don't feel broken, it's like a desperate search to find the answers to feel better.
Yeah.
Some people might go and self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. For some reason, I didn't do that. Thank the skies above. But I think for me, it's just I've got this sheer determination just to find the answers, and I found a lot of answers.
Yeah,
I found a lot of answers, and I just want to share what I've found.
Yeah,
if that helps one person, it's great, isn't it?
I know that you've already helped me, and just our first encounter, it really resonated with me. But I know that you
specifically that resonated.
I'm going to tell our audience what happened. So, I'm a new podcaster, right? I had Matthew Page on my show, and I had a couple of technical issues, so I couldn't share this part with you. But Matthew asked me a question, and it stunned me. I'm a podcaster. My voice is my talent. I'm never at a loss for words. But it stopped me in my tracks because what you said to me, Matthew, was, has anybody ever told you that what happened to you was not your fault, that it was wrong? And I want to let you know that I'm sorry that happened to you. And you said it in the authenticity, it caught me off guard. I was just like, no, nobody has ever given me that sentiment. They have never given me that grace. So I just want to talk about the part of you that said that. And I think that a lot of our audience would like to hear more about that mentality because it affected me. I've told my therapist and it's okay. I sure did. I told her, I was like, I've never been asked that before. And so
what did they say? What did they say to you?
She was like, that's an amazing question. I can't ask that because I don't share your experience. I said, well, I don't think it's about who does. I think it's about the way that he did it. It's not about the position that you're in. It's about the level of authenticity you're feeling when you say those words, because they can feel a little patronizing to some people, some of us. But it was your pure authenticity that still resonates with me today.
Thank you.
And I want to share that with our siblings. So if you could go into that sentiment with them, I would love that.
Well, I just feel that, we need to take responsibility as a society for these children. And, who's going to sit them down and say, look, what's happened to you should never have happened to you. I'm really sorry that's happened to you. And I apologize. For that's happened, for that happening. Because I think what it does, it gives a child a sense of acceptance that what they've gone through shouldn't have happened and it wasn't their fault. And someone's taking ownership of that. It might not be that person's, like when I apologize to you, I had nothing to do with your upbringing.
Right.
But just to have someone to say, look, for this moment, for this intimate moment, I'm gonna hold that and take that responsibility, and on behalf of that, apologise to you.
Yeah.
and say that should never have happened. It doesn't hurt anybody, does it? It didn't hurt me to say that. It didn't. But what did that make you feel to have that apology? How did that sit with you?
It was for me personally, it
Mm.
was this stunning act that gave me an instant of relief. I know you said, we sit down with children. I wish somebody had started with me at that age, but I feel like you did apologize to me for the system as a child. And it really helped me. It helped me reflect on that day. That day, I wrote like a machine.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding. I wrote so many pages into my memoir, but it was the sense of relief. I think in that moment, what I felt was what you said, an acceptance. Somebody else noticed a
Yeah.
validation.
It's
Somebody
not on
else
your
noticed it
shoulders,
was
is it?
wrong. Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when we're foster kids, we scream our truths and
Mm.
nobody listens. We are minimized. We are, what we say is contorted. And to the point where
It can
in a
be,
lot of,
yeah.
yeah, we sort of start to shame ourselves out of ever even expecting an apology, and we become the labels. We become the reason. In my case, it was easier to become the labels than to just not be liked for no reason. And that's kind of what happened to me with the society that raised me. So yeah, it was a relief, is what it was. It was a validation.
A validate,
Yes.
that's a great word, a validation. And I think that's the key there, isn't it? To
Yeah.
validate that
Yeah.
everything you've been through, you shouldn't have gone through, and that there's someone there that's sorry that you've gone through that. It's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. And
It's
I'm
powerful
just so
stuff.
grateful to have you on the show because even just sharing this segment, this part of it with our audience, if you have nobody who has said it to you, say it to yourself because you did nothing wrong. Okay. And what happened to you was wrong. Whatever it was, different details, same destination. We're all
Mm.
here. We're all trying to discover ourselves.
We're trying to heal, aren't we? We're trying to
Yeah.
heal from things that were nothing to do with us, that were imposed upon us, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah,
we've had to live
absolutely.
with that, with the consequences of other people's decisions. Or
Absolutely. I do want to get into, because I know it was new to me when we first discussed it. I want to get into intersectionality and what that means.
mm.
I'd like our audience to understand it a little bit better and who it embraces.
Well, I'll keep this simple. Intersectionality is basically, it means that we're not the sum of one part. So, for example, I am a man who's got a dual identity. I'm gay. Got lived care experience. So those different intersections make up or help make up me and my identity. My identity is not as a gay man. That doesn't define me, or it doesn't. My color doesn't define me. My gender doesn't define me. But those things put together make up your identity, or they help to make up your identity.
Hmm.
And we've got so ingrained in looking at the different in diversity, equality, and we
Inclusion.
look at
Yeah.
all inclusion. We're so ingrained in looking at one thing, whereas we should be looking at ourselves as a whole
Yeah.
and each other as a whole, and that makes us unique.
Yeah.
Those things make us unique. So we need to be celebrating the intersectionality in us.
You know what strikes me in that is kind of the irony of the people that are intolerant to it because we are all intersectional.
Yeah,
We
all of
all
us.
have something. And
Yeah.
if we defined ourselves as such, we are all unique and not that different because what we have is this commonality of being many things. I think the people that I find that I've spoken to, and in moments of intolerance in my life toward things, what I was feeling in those situations was distance from that person and not a kinship, not a
Yeah.
similarity in the world,
Yeah.
right? And when we're intersectional and we
Yeah.
can say, yeah, oh, wow, me too. These are all my
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
It really does kind of create a unity, doesn't it?
It
Between
does.
everyone.
Yeah. It does. Certainly breaks down barriers because there's the thing about lots of these different groups, these diverse groups, are they're quite secular. They're stuck in it's us against them and them against us. And
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be like that. You know, you bring it all together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the people in, let's say, a church, they think, no, I'm a Christian. And this is not, by the way, to my audience, absolutely not an attack on Christians. You're the first example that came to my mind. But as a Christian, if you're watching this and you are one, is that all you are? Or are you many other things who also practices Christianity?
Yeah.
I feel like if we looked at ourselves as not just one thing, that, like you said, that secular nature, that secular mindset, maybe we're not a Christian in this conversation or an atheist in this conversation or whatever, shutting down the other side. Maybe we're intersectional. Maybe that's just a part of you. You know?
I think if we start looking at our parts as opposed to apart, I think that those things can change everything.
Absolutely.
How we relate to each other, our relationships. So did you know, for example, that there's only one cure for racism?
What is it? I need to know. Let's spread it.
DNA test. So most of us, all of us, we come from Africa, don't we, really?
Yeah.
It all goes back to Africa. So there's been lots of...
unbiased facts, people. This is not a discussion that is straying from fact so far, just so you know.
So there's been lots of evidence to prove that when people who claim to be racist have their DNA tests done and they can see their ancestry, that it changes everything.
I bet it would.
Because we all lead back.
Yeah, we live under a very indoctrinating leadership that wants to make us ignorant and fearful. That's what I think I love.
They want to dumb us down,
They sure do. And I think that's why when you mentioned intersectionality the first time we spoke, my brain went everywhere that day. I thought of teachers and their classroom of students who think, you're not a mom, you're not a sister, you're just a teacher. You don't have a life outside of this, you know? And I know that was my mindset. When first time I saw my teacher at a grocery store, I thought, what are you doing out here?
They go shopping?
Yeah.
They eat food?
Get back in the classroom. I'll be there Monday, Like, what do you,
you
don't exist outside those walls. So I think that my brain went everywhere and I thought of how fluid that term really is and how if people could embrace it, I feel like they would open more doors inside of themselves, more acceptance for themselves and be able to accept more people.
To be more tolerant of each other as well.
That's right.
Because, I might look at you at face value and see a woman. But when I get to know you, I start to see your intersections. I find out that your, lived experience. Oh, wow, that connects us automatically. We've got a connection there on that.
That's right.
So we go to that, don't we? And then we discover the other intersections about each other. So now we're talking about my intersection, LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Because initially we got talking because of the lived care experience.
Yeah.
So it opens up this whole wealth of this,
fascinating world.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. It's so much better than just shutting things down that we don't understand. I'm all about that infinite wisdom and knowledge. But you do something with yours. You spread it. You're a mentor. You're an advocate, and a trustee at the Fostering Network. I want to hear more about that.
There's obviously it's an absolute honor to be asked to join the board at the Fostering Network. As you said before, they are the leading fostering charity in Great Britain. To go from a kid in the foster care system to be sitting on the board of trustees, I believe that I'm I don't know if I'm the only person with lived experience who's been on the board in the past, but I think I am at the moment. So, but anyway, to go from foster care to the board of trustees at the Fostering Network has been a huge journey. But I'm really proud of myself for getting there. And
I'm proud of you too. I'm really proud of you. Everything.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Now I just feel like I've got a lot of work to do now. Now I've got my feet under the table. I've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just seems, doesn't it seem once you get in it, like, I don't know about you, but when I first got into this, I had a clear plan, and it was a hero's plan, and it was executable, and I was going to execute it. And then I
Yeah,
started this, and I'm like, whoa, there's so much more to it. There's so many more
yeah,
levels and layers
there
of
are.
where I'm
It doesn't.
needed. And,
Yeah. Mm,
the things that just emails, just reading comments, just reading what
mm.
people need out there. Every single one inspires a new article and a new movement for me. So, I mean, do you ever get to that feeling where it's like you came in
Yeah.
thinking, I know what to
It's
do, and now you're
yeah.
like, this has changed?
Well, I think where I'm going with my work in the foster care world is for the LGBTQ plus foster parents and the LGBTQ plus children as well. Because let's not forget, there's lots of children growing up now. We're in a different world over here. There's lots of children now that are comfortable to talk about
Yeah.
how they identify at a really early age. Because there's been a lot of work around at in schools around homophobia and transphobia. There's a lot of awareness now. So a lot of kids, especially where I live, it's quite a nice area around here. But so maybe I live in a silo, but it's the norm.
How does it
Yeah.
feel when you're advocating? I know we can't go into specifics about the kids, but
Mm.
kind of having that contrast of what you went through, and then how much openness there is around it. How do you advocate around that contrast?
It's lovely. It's
Yeah,
wonderful. It's
yeah.
wonderful, and children are taught their rights. Now as well. I had a kid turn around to me and say, "You can't talk to me like that," and it's like, well, actually, no. I shouldn't be talking to you like that.
I love that.
Those kind of moments, and there were so many different moments when I was fostering, because we had a little boy who identified as a transgender and bisexual and then gay, and they were 10 years old. So those things to me weren't a big deal, and it's like, great, those things are great, and we'll get there when we get there. When you get there, but let's go and have fun. Let's go and enjoy ourselves, like
Yeah.
every other 10-year-old. Let's go and have fun. And when you get to your sexuality, we can talk about it. But it's not it's let's celebrate you being a kid and
Yeah.
have fun.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
being able to explore your identity is part of that, and not being
Mm.
oppressed by it. I think that we have started something as a society. I'm so proud of society for getting this far for these kids, because now they can relax. Now they don't have to make it everything about themselves. Now they can just
Yeah.
express it, work through it, work with it.
If they're
And
lucky,
yeah,
there's still lots of kids that can't, though, aren't there? But
there
we are.
are, but society is growing where
Yeah.
our leaders seem to be stalled. So I am grateful for the
Mhm.
people that I encounter, because these conversations aren't weird. They're not taboo anymore. And it used to be, when I would, because I kind of I grew up with one of the most ironic stories. My grandmother's story. She escaped when she was pregnant with my dad from her father. And I had to do a lot of digging in to find out my DNA family secrets was as good as yours. Wasn't really a light at that tunnel, but I found out who he was. And so my great grandfather actually was in the KKK in Reddington, Washington. And my grandmother, so her father was one of the leaders of it. And she was
Wow.
treated poorly because she had relationships with Black people. And her
Wow.
father hated her for that.
Yeah.
Well, she ended up, after tragedy, she ended up running away because she just couldn't live under it. She was also a
Mm.
victim of my grandfather. That was you're my second in command, you can have her situation.
Mm.
But she ended up finding a guy in the Air Force, and ran away with him. And the irony of it all is they got stationed in Africa. So the first 13 years of my
Wow.
dad's life, he just remembers growing up in Africa, just off and on, and so what a slap in the face to a racist. I absolutely love that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a very tolerant home. My dad was also very ethereal. I didn't grow up with him, but with parents who were so ethereal, so hippie, that there was
Mm.
no discrimination or racism or anything. I also
Yeah.
didn't grow up in society. So when I hit society, when I was 18, I was dealing with nothing I knew was real. Nothing I knew. Everybody hated somebody. There was always a reason.
Yeah,
I
they're all
thought
set
I
against
was
each
the
other.
other. Being a
Yeah.
foster kid, I thought was the most discriminated thing
Mm.
in the world because that was my perspective, and nobody brought up anything ever. We were
Right.
segregated into, the white families.
Mm.
I had one experience, and it was ironically the best one, a 2 week. But the point is that growing up like this, the way that we grew up, don't you feel like you kind of paved the pathway a little bit with, with our pain?
Absolutely.
We,
And
yeah,
these very conversations, we're still doing it.
yeah.
If someone picks up one thing from this podcast that we've spoken about and goes away and remembers it and passes it on, it's
Yeah.
worth this conversation's been worth it, hasn't it?
I think it has anyway, just for me. I'm so excited though, Matthew, to pay attention to yours. Get going on your episodes because you have a fan out of me. You know that right away. As soon as we end this session, I'm going right over to YouTube to subscribe. And to our audience, again, there are only a couple of videos up there now.
Yeah, and also I'm in the middle of, I haven't spoken about this publicly yet, but I'm in the middle of editing a film that I've made about my journey to the Seychelles and to my homeland, to meet family, discover my heritage, and I took a film crew with me,
Wow.
and we're in the middle of editing it at the moment. I'll keep
That's
you posted on that
exciting.
as well.
Editing
Yeah,
means update soon, maybe?
well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, if you keep me posted, I'll keep my audience
of
posted
course
for
I will.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Matthew, I am just, again, so very grateful. Thank you for
Me
joining me and
too.
for
Mm.
representing something that is so important today in society. Just representing advocacy and compassion and understanding. And I think that
Mm.
if I were going to describe you in 3 words, that's what you would
Oh,
represent to me. And I really appreciate your presence. And I know that you're going to affect a lot of people and in such a positive and powerful way, like you have already affected me. So thank you again. I'm
oh,
so
thank
grateful.
you. Thank you so much for seeing me and hearing me
Absolutely.
and having me on your show.
And I just want to say to our audience, to all of my foster fear siblings out there, keep doing your thing. Keep being exactly you. I didn't make any changes while I was hiding. I lied about being a foster kid. And I'm not saying out yourself now. I get it. We have a moment in time when that's appropriate for us. But it wasn't until I accepted every single part of my intersectionality that I
Yep.
could come out and be powerful, that I could have a voice, and that I could reach you guys. And it's been an amazing, I'm only 4 months old in this podcast realm. And I'm going to tell you the outreach, and it's been cathartic. It's been beautiful. And I just want to really encourage you guys to go out there and love yourselves. Be 100% you, because that's how you pave the
It gets
pathway
better.
for. That's
Mm.
right. And it does get better. Before we leave, Matthew, would you like to say anything to the audience?
I'd just like to say that if you're out there, you're alone and you don't know where you are, you need to find your tribe. And I think, Amira, you're a really good place to start.
Absolutely. And a willing place. That leads me to, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to be on the show, if you're ready to share your story, reach out to me at iwafosterkid@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can look up the interview with a foster kid podcast or just search Amira Therese. I'll have those links in the description as well. And all of the links, including Matthew Page and everything we talked about today. I love you all. I am here for you. Like I always say, I don't care if you're just having a bad Thursday. Let me know about it. I might be as well. Maybe I'm in a good place and I'll need to call you back when I'm not. Let's find our tribes, like Matthew so eloquently put it. And until next time, stay foster kid fierce.
Thanks, guys.